of community-based studies for Better Together, and you guys finished the final report.
So we finished a summary report on our initial series of reports. So we'll still be in business and producing some more studies and more work. And
I was kind of hoping this is the last time you're on the show.
And no, I'm not going away.
All right, good, fair enough. All right, so this report was a culmination of all the past reports.
Yes, and so we set out with these 6 original reports to do across the region, and as we were doing them, we realized that there were some common threads that really link them all. So they didn't exist in a vacuum, and so this report really examines those larger causes.
What did you find out?
So what was really striking to us was that we have amazing resources and amenities in the St. Louis region. We have world-class universities, SLU, WashU. We have great amenities, world-class sports teams, a booming entrepreneurial ecosystem here. And yet what we see is a population drop in the city and the county, increased unemployment. And we looked at other regions that had those things and they were growing. And we asked, why aren't we thriving? And a lot of the evidence pointed to our structure and our fragmentation, and it's just an outdated way of doing business.
So you're telling me that people make a conscious choice, everything's great, but there are 54 police departments, so I don't want to live here?
No, I think that what we have seen out of that fragmentation is there's 3 big results. One is internal competition. So those other regions are operating as one and they're competing outwardly. St. Louis expends so much energy and so many resources competing against their neighbors. So we're constantly using incentives to get sales tax.
So instead of stealing business from, say, the state of Georgia, we end up stealing business from Kirkwood.
Right. We'll, move a strip mall down the street, and that's our version of economic development, even though decades have shown no growth.
Right. Okay, that is really quite interesting. What other comparable cities are growing as opposed to us not growing?
If you look at, we look at a lot at Indianapolis, we look at Louisville, Jefferson County, which has 83 municipalities, but they work together on the most expensive services, public safety. They share in economic development successes regardless of where it happens in the region. And they are able to then come together as a team and compete outwardly and really sell Louisville, Jefferson County as opposed to trying to sell a 1-mile stretch of the Rock Road or something specific like that.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Okay, so it's not shocking. It's interesting. You brought up new stuff. You uncovered new stuff, but the same old story, right?
Right.
We're too fragmented, too many police departments, too many fire, too much infighting.
Yeah, we're competing against each other, and because of that internal competition, we have inefficiencies, we have disparities where we have, police officers in some areas that are issued no real equipment besides a badge and paid $12 an hour, and then we have others that are trained and supplied well. And so the successful regions have a baseline of services and quality of life throughout the region, and that's something that they're able to sell.
Thought it was interesting you make note in the report that some communities have free leaf removal service, and the other ones don't even have basic, and the other ones have boil orders because their water isn't clean.
Yeah, I mean, we have communities that have no municipal property tax, and they offer free leaf pickup, tree trimming, and then we have a few miles down the road, communities just struggling to provide basic services to their residents. And to think that doesn't have an impact on how we function or are viewed as a region is, it's a little naive.
So 2 years of work, all of these studies, what happens now? Is it put in a drawer? Who's talking about it? Who's going to lead the change? What happens next?
Well, and that's it ties into our third finding is we don't have that position regionally for a regional leader. We've seen the county executive try and implement basic police standards that are strongly supported across the county, and then mayors suing to block that.
Right.
And so we don't have that position that can reform the entire region, so it's going to be a heavier lift. We're going to have to really inform people, talk to them about their options, empower some of the community leaders to really push for those stronger powers, to push for that united vision. And in other regions, that can just kind of come about organically.
Right.
But this is going to be something we're going to have to educate people on, have to get them engaged, and continue to work in the current structure.
I know a former small town mayor here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, and they will tell you that they don't like this. They like all of these police departments because they feel that they respond better to the residents in their community because they're so close to the people.
Proximity has value if you have the resources to be close and be effective. What we've seen time and time again is that people can call their alderman who's up the street, but they don't have the capabilities that maybe a St. Louis County police force does to respond to major crimes, to major events. And so that proximity argument is interesting until you examine it further. You have to be close, but you also have to have the resources and capabilities, and many of the smaller governments, smaller departments don't have that.
Yeah. The numbers are quite shocking. 90 municipalities, 43 fire districts, 57 police departments, 81 municipal courts, 52,000 pages of ordinances.
Yeah. And to put that into context for the listeners, there's 9,000 pages in the IRS tax code. We have 52,000 pages of local ordinances.
So basically, we can't get out of our own way.
And that's the thing, is this is a system that was inherited, so our findings aren't an attack on, an individual. We've inherited this from generations past. So I think the question is, if anyone would look at our region, the city, the county, how we're structured, there is no one I've talked to yet that would say if they were trying to draw an effective region, they would draw what we have.
Right. But then you also say to people, hey, I like the fact that I get free leaf removal. I don't want that changed.
Right, and that's the issue with how we're structured, is we have those winners and losers, and what we need is a basic line of services where everybody has good service. Louisville has those municipalities, for example, and they have high-quality services, and then you can add some bells and whistles to that. You can have a local property tax, but you still operate on the big things as a region.
Did you guys do how much money we're spending extra to have 43 fire districts and police departments and muni courts and all that stuff?
Yeah, so we spend $2.3 billion annually. And if you look at that on a per capita basis against Indianapolis residents, we spend about $750 million more each year. And that's an even larger number when you look at Louisville.
We spend $750 million more than Louisville for basic services?
Correct. And when you look at it, we spend about $250 million just on general administration in this region each year.
We spend how much?
So it's about $220 million. And so that goes to just the basic administrative positions, keeping the lights on. This goes to things before you provide actual services.
Is that $220 million part of the 750?
Parts of it is. So the $750 million overspend comes from not just inefficiencies in administration, but when you have 43 fire departments all buying fire trucks separately,
right,
you're paying more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basic mathematics.
Well, and you've got then human resources departments, you've got accountants, you've got secretaries, you've got phone bills and everything else. $750 million more to have that connection with your alderman that doesn't have the resources to do what you want them to do.
Right, and to put in a context of people who are taking advantage of that, 29 mayors in St. Louis County were elected with 100 votes or less in the last election. So I think our average voter turnout in municipal elections is about 9%.
Right.
And nationally, or maybe it's about 10%, and nationally it's about 21%.
Of the 90 municipalities, 29 of them were voted in with less than 100 votes.
Correct.
Wow. David Leipold's with us from Better Together. Where can we read this final report?
So if you go to bettertogetherstl.com, it'll be right there on the front page. You can sign up for a newsletter and you can read the report.
Wow, that is really interesting stuff. David, you're always welcome here. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks.
728. We've got numbers next. Big 550 KTR.